Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Arne. A pleasure to have run this AGM with you. So, oui, effectivement, on va faire la présentation en anglais. Pour les participants francophones, à la fin, on va avoir des questions françaises, si vous voulez, puis vous avez aussi accès à la présentation en français. So, in English now, so thank you very much for everyone attending the AGM this year. I'll be making forward-looking statements, and the goal of this 25 minutes presentation is really for you to understand our vision, what we are trying to accomplish in the next 12 months, and what we did accomplish in the previous 12 months. So yes, indeed, I refer you on the website for reading further the forward-looking statements that you see there. So what we do at NMG didn't change in the last 12 months. We're really committed at building the full vertical from mining operation, from crushing the rock here in Quebec, in Canada, all the way to the value-added transformation of this very advanced material, very essential material for the lithium-ion battery market. And we are in conversation directly with cell makers. So it's fairly different compared to cathode side. On the anode side, we are going all the way from mining to qualifying our product with cell makers. So this is what we're doing with 3 different projects now. We added a project in the last year. So what you see in blue is the most advanced asset that we have, all located here in Quebec, Canada. So first of all, the MATAWINIE asset. We'll discuss today where we are at on the MATAWINIE mining project. It's located 2 hours north of Montreal in Saint-Michel-des-Saints, very advanced asset where we're planning to produce 103,000 tons per annum of flake graphite concentrate. And most of this production will be sent into Bécancour, where we are building a battery material plant of active anode material in the large industrial projects that is now famous for being a part of the Battery Valley of North America. And more recently, we acquired as well a 51% option interest into the UATNAN mining project located further north in Quebec, where we are planning to produce 500,000 tons per annum of flake concentrate. It's currently one of the largest natural graphite operation being developed in the world. Again, all located in Eastern Canada. We have very favorable geology, all the infrastructure needed, and a lot of benefits to serve this booming North American market in our backyard. So, and how we are doing it is fairly important, is essential to our growth. So we've started with a phase 1 that is now fully operational. So it's a testing plant where we are pushing the limits of our processes, where we are delivering samples to customers, so we can start the qualification process of our product. So that phase 1 is both in Saint-Michel-des-Saints and in Bécancour, depending on the processes. That's the de-risking phase where we've invested close to 125 million so far with the purpose of financing and building the phase 2. The phase 2, we've invested close to 75 million so far and being ready where we are now. So the phase 2 will deliver profitability of the business. This is what we are doing now as a project financing. And this is, we have an MOU already with Panasonic Energy for a significant portion of the production. And we are in talk with many other cell maker and OEMs to complete our marketing of this phase 2. And in parallel, we are starting the development of the phase 3 because it is quite important for our customers to see that if they are working with us, they have optionality going forward to follow the growth of their own business, and it's worth for them working with us. So the phases are quite important, and it's the key of our development since 2017. So, and a big differentiator for NMG is the ESG aspect. So on the environmental front, we have completed a lot of agreements this year. The most known one is the mining, the all-electric mining development with our partner Caterpillar. So we've signed a definitive agreement this year, quite an important milestones. Also on the social side, we are in active discussion with 3 First Nation communities that are involved in our project. First of all, for the MATAWINIE project, the Atskamek First Nation. And also for the Bécancour transformation plan, we're talking with the Abénaki First Nation and for the new UATNAN mining project with the Inus First Nation. So it's not something that we see on the day-to-day. There's not a lot of press releases, but it's quite important to work with the local communities to make sure they understand what we do, and we consider their concerns and their what they would like to see as a benefit in our project. So all the ESG work we're doing was, we had a favorable rating last year by Moody's as an A2, making us one of the first quartile ranking in North America. So we're quite proud about that. And more, if you like some quantum, some precision on our benefits. So we were also this year successful in proceeding with a life cycle assessment to really quantify the delta of carbon footprint savings that we are allowing our customers. And when you have customers that appreciate that delta and are committed to compensate for their emission, that's where you have great benefits. So we will expect greenium that is proportional to the cost saving and compensation that we are allowing our customer by having only 1.23 kilogram of CO2 equivalent per every kilogram produced of anode material on an MG project. In comparison with what is currently the standard in China, it's a major 12 to 13% reduction in carbon footprint. So this is quite important, in part because of our optimization of hydroelectricity usage in all our operations. So if we go more precisely on what we achieved this year, so there's a lot of things that you can see with press release and other things that you don't quite see. So the thing we can see, obviously, it's the feasibility study we've produced maybe 10 months ago, last year, on both the MATAWINIE asset and the Bécancour value-added transformation plan. So this is a very important feasibility study for our phase 2. And an important milestones for our project financing that Charles, our CFO, will discuss later. Also, we've produced the first PEA, preliminary economic assessment, on the phase 3, as well as announcing an MOU with Panasonic Energy. This is quite important as well. On the financing front, we've delivered $72 million US of financing in the last year, and also 8.6 million of financing through other forms, mainly governmental funding, governmental supports, and different programs. So that's something very important. And we've also started with Société Générale as a lead coordinator and lead arranger on our financing, our debt side of the financing, which is quite important. What you don't see as much, but it's very important, it's all the engagement of our phase 1 with customers, all the samples we deliver and all the talents we are hiring on our site, how we can improve our continuous engagement on quality. This is very important. And also the engagement with local communities, and also not only First Nation, but also all the local municipalities and other stakeholders. So there was a lot of things made in the last 12 months, and we are looking forward continuing on that matter and moving forward. One big milestone is the phase 1 that is now fully operational, and we are at various phases of testing on the different processes to test what we can do and what we cannot do for a customer. It's important to push the systems at its limit before we're building the phase 2 commercial project. So this is what we're doing at all the processes. So concentrator since 2018, it's very stable and mature. Shaping since 2020, where it's very important to always strive at improving the product and improving the different economical parameters. And purification since mid-2021, and coating since now mid last year, where we are, a different level of maturity on those processes, and where we are, constantly improving our ability to produce the product for customers. And, something we don't talk as much is also the mine site, the phase 1 mining site. So what you see, it's an aerial view taken last week of the phase 1 mining site that is located very close proximity to our transformation phase 1 plant. So you see on the left side, the small pit where we've mined just north of 35,000 tons of ore. And on the right side where we're managing tailings and we're testing a lot of different environmental initiatives. So on the top right end, you see the co-disposal cells that allow us to test in real time what we're planning to do at the commercial level, and also it's releasing to the public and to the government officials here all our results, so we can always improve the way we will design the commercial scale. On the far right end, that's where you see a new willow plantation where we've planted willows to test also the restoration that we'll do on site and some new innovation that our environmental team is doing. So all of this, what allows us to understand, and it's very important, it's reducing risk for the upstream, and ahead of our sales, reducing that risk is quite important, so we can make the right promises to customer and sign the right offtake agreement. And also something very important, being in straight discussion with cell maker, we need to have a culture of quality, and we need to develop this Kaizen mentality, the continuous improvement mentality, to make sure we always strive at getting the product better and also reducing our costs and always become a better and better supplier for our tier 1 customers. And obviously it allows us to pinpoint the right talents that we need to bring on board our project, and also just the right initiatives in terms of oversee headhunting and also training program for all our teams. So those three things are essential thanks to our phase 1 plant to allow us to build a better phase 2 facility. So on the phase 2 now, another thing that is going in parallel is the development of the large MATAWINIE mine, where engineering is about 70% completed, very advanced. We've completed another preliminary construction program with suppliers. And also we have a lot of different activities that is planning to occur. Some post-FID, once we'll complete the project financing, others like the completion of the project execution team and the finalization of the construction strategy that we're doing right now. So if you look at a picture of what the construction site is looking today, so on the far right end, that's where we saw a picture previously. So now you see we've invested, give or take, about 20 million of the CapEx itself by building the access road, by also doing all the clear and grub that you see on the construction side. And close to the middle of that picture, that's where you should see post-FID, the erection of the concentrator. So now you see we've done a lot of environmental infrastructure already on site. And on the far left side, it's the future vegetal stockpile. So it's starting to look like a very active construction site. And we're looking forward post-FID to accelerate the pace of work on the phase 2 MATAWINIE mine. In Bécancour at the same time. So in Bécancour, as you know, we were one of the first, or the first to acquire their land in the park, in the battery, what we call today the Battery Valley. So we've acquired this land right in the middle of the park. So we have access to all infrastructure already. So what we've done this year, we've completed an environmental baseline and important archaeological study in partnership with the Abénaquis First Nation to make sure there was no historical significance in the ground there. And we've selected major equipment supplier for the project, and we've continuously improved the design and the optimization of the process. So currently, we've hired recently our vice president of this project, coming straight from Rio Tinto, very experienced project builder. So he joined our team a few months ago, and we're getting ready post-FID to start the construction of this battery material plant in Bécancour. So we have a timeline as disclosed in our feasibility study last summer. We have a timeline on both projects post-FID to be 28 months post-FID into commercial production. So So depending when exactly is FID, we'll be updating this schedule, but this is the schedule we're working with and we're discussing currently with customers. So phase 3, UATNAN mining project. So why we decided to acquire this 51% interest right now, it's in direct relationship with the customer discussion. So the customers are required to do a significant commitment in our phase 2 in both the production, but also an investment of time and resources. So to do such a commitment, they like to see the fact that we have a phase 3 afterward, so they can also improve their knowledge of the accessible graphite in North America. So for us, developing the phase 3, the way we want it to be developed in North America right now, it's quite important. And this is why we've started right away to do a preliminary economic assessment for Juan earlier this year on 500,000 ton per annum flake concentrate mine right on site this time, 10 times bigger than what the previous operator was planning. So the UATNAN mining project is one of the largest flake graphite deposits in the world. So it needed to be developed as well as the largest, one of the largest flake concentrate mine in the world. And that's what we're slowly starting to do while we are very focused on the financing and the construction of the phase 2. So quick word on the market. So some of this material, you've seen it in the past, but there's some discussion to have currently on the market. So as you know, graphite, there's 2/3 of the flake graphite coming from China, with a lot of new graphite deposit coming from Africa. But something they didn't change in the last year is the 100% control of the spherical graphite market by the Chinese economy. So this is something that in North America, in Canada, in fact, very close to my home here, there's flake graphite production. However, we need to step up and make some spherical graphite production in North America to serve the new market, the new lithium-ion battery market that is booming in the US. So this is something that is quite important for us to provide at least one viable and essential alternatives to the Chinese graphite, to the North American market and European market. As you know, there's a lot of discussion on new technologies. I think every week we have the press releases on new technology, but it's clear today that we are in an unprecedented growth in scalability of the lithium-ion battery market. There is no other technology that is not using graphite that is currently being built at large scale. So should it be LFP chemistry for lithium-ion or NMC or NCA, all lithium-ion battery plants that are getting built today are all using graphite on the anode, either natural or synthetic, depending on the chemistry and on the cell maker. But the growth of graphite is very significant, and it's very important in comparison with other battery materials as well. So I like to say in the last 2 years, we saw a phenomenal growth in the pricing of lithium. So there's a lot of incentive for the lithium market to bring a lot of lithium tonnage in the supply chain. So for every new tons of lithium going in the battery market, you'll need at some point 1.5 tons of graphite to do the rest of the batteries. So that's what you see on this slide. So by 2030, Benchmark Minerals of UK are forecasting north of 10 million ton more of graphite needed to fulfill the needs of the 387 battery gigafactories. So the question is, where's the bottleneck? And at some point, graphite will be that bottleneck if no capacity are getting built. And that's why we're ready to service those, to build those projects, especially here in North America, where this balance between demand and supply is even more strong, considering the fact that there's no current supply of battery grade graphite. And now there's over 1.25 terawatt hour of battery capacity that is getting built, which is quite significant. And it's I would say the highlight of the last 12 months. It's really the fact that North America now is a bigger growth place for lithium-ion compared to Europe, and it's quite a big step up by the North American business. So for 1.25, you will require at least 1.5 million ton of graphite for this big demand. So you remember the 10 million ton. So by 2030, from that 10 million ton, 1.5 will be needed in North America. And Europe is still a pretty big market, where about 1.3, 1.4 million ton of graphite will be needed there. So in the Western world, it's about 2.8 million ton of graphite should be needed. And currently there's no supply. So this is our backyard. This is where in China, there might be graphite available, but not in the Western world where there's a lot of demand. So that's what you see. So that's a bit the impact of the Inflation Reduction Act. The impact of the IRA was clear. So you see in the dotted line when the product was, when the IRA was announced. And today, that's where in the last month or so, that's where Benchmark is now saying that North American market has now more battery plants in construction compared to Europe. So this brings a lot of business in our backyard, but a lot of interest on the cell factory, on the cathode side. So we like to see those investments on the cell factory on the cathode side, because at some point, if you want to justify those investments, you need to have anode as well. So that's where the IRA is very important for us. And Charles will discuss after how the Canadian government was reacted with this IRA, with bringing the same kind of benefit here in Canada. So, but yet on pricing, we did not see much improvement. We all expect a lithium moment to occur in the upcoming few quarters, but it did not start yet. It did not materialize yet. In China, there is capacity of graphite. So the big question for everyone is really the market in China representative of the pricing in North America? We strongly believe that it's not representative. In North America, there's no supply. We need to build project. So what we're asking customers is really to provide pricing mechanism and pricing quantum high enough to justify equity return, lending, bankability, and making sure that those projects gets built. So the customer, it's clear, need an alternative. It's clear they understands they need to play a role in project financing. And it's also clear that the spot price in China is totally not representing the price that needs to happen in North America for those projects to get built. The important question is what the cost for our customers in North America to use a product coming from China. So they have to pay tariffs. They are not eligible for IRA. They need to pay logistics. They need to have bigger inventory, and they have a carbon footprint that is not at par with the promises they make to their stakeholders. So this is all benefits that NMG is providing to them, and we expect premiums for those benefits, you know, in partnership with our customers. So we need to build the right structure for everyone to see their win in the project financing. Last slide on market. So important thing to notice in the benchmark minerals analysis of offer and demand, that's worldwide analysis. So you see that 2023 is the first year where we should have a supply deficit. So we all expect a better better second half compared to first half of 2023. And you see this supply deficit at some point should bring project into production. But in North America, there's only 2 highly probable mining projects that are monitored by Benchmark Minerals. And those 2 projects are controlled by NMG with the MATAWINIE mine and the UATNAN 51% interest we have on the UATNAN project. So the highly probable projects in North America are quite limited. And we are fortunate to control those 2. So this is important in our future growth. So last 2 slides for me. So as you know, we've announced Panasonic MOU at the end of last year. So we're totally engaged in our discussion with this great partner. So it's not only a partnership on buying product, it's a partnership where we work together in our plant, in their plant, to make sure all the technical teams understand what we can do in our plant and what is needed in their plant. And it's a very, very important relationship we're establishing with Panasonic. And we're currently drafting, and advancing on the definitive agreements that we need to support the bankability of our project financing, and all the commercial discussion on pricing mechanism and technical production parameters. So this is progressing well. Stay tuned. Once it's completed, we'll be more public about the definitive agreement that we are progressing with our partner. Panasonic is a very important partner to us, but there's not even two handful of tier one cell maker currently in the world, but we're engaged with most of them thanks to a specialized financial advisor that is now working with us to engage in very precise discussion with tier one cell makers. So Panasonic is very important, but we are also very engaged with other cell makers currently, providing samples, doing site visits, having commercial discussion to make sure we build the best portfolio ever of tier one cell makers to support the project financing that we are contemplating. So on that, maybe Charles, you can say a few words on the current next step for project financing.
Good. Thanks, Eric, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Today, I'll be sharing some of the project finance milestones that we're actively working towards. Just to recap, in 2022, we accomplished, amongst others, two important milestones. First, we have published our 43-101 feasibility study, integrating both the MATAWINIE mine and the Bécancour sites. The result indicate an after-tax NPV at 8% of $1,581 million, with an after-tax IRR of 21%. The expected yearly revenue is at approximately $600 million, while the operating expense are projected at $200 million. This provides, on a pro forma basis, an EBITDA of $400 million with initial capital expenditure of $1.4 billion. Secondly, we also signed an MOU with Panasonic Energy with the aim to conclude a multi-year offtake agreement, which shall be the foundation of the project finance structuring. As we speak, we have a formal process underway with regards to that structuring, with the help of our financial advisor and Société Générale acting as a lead arranger on the senior debt facility. Some of the key items that are currently being worked is the due diligence workstream done by potential lenders, customer, and equity investor, with the aim to secure an offtake agreement coming alongside an equity investment by the anchor customer. In the second half of 2023, we also aim to secure credit approval from senior lenders. Those are all key conditions for the board of directors to move forward with the approval of the final investment decision. If you can just switch slide, Eric, please. So as we navigate through more volatility in the financial market, we are seeing macroeconomic support for critical mineral in Canada, in US, and Europe. This obviously includes natural graphite. In recent months, and Eric alluded to that, we've seen important governmental measures to foster investment in the sector. In the US, the Inflation Reduction Act has been one of the leading measures which support mining company, processors, cell makers, all the way to the car maker. As for NMG, two recent tax measures are expected to have an important impact on the overall project finance structuring. The new investment tax credit for clean tech manufacturing from the Canadian government provides a 30% refundable credit on the eligible capital costs. Also, in the recent Quebec budget, they announced a tax holiday for major investment project. This credit is a non-refundable tax credit for up to 25% of the eligible investment. Combined, those two tax measures are expected to provide several hundreds of millions of dollars of support directly to NMG. Moving on to the important 4 key success factors in the project finance. If you can switch slide, Eric. First is the commercial offtake agreement that shall be long-term with an index-linked price while adding a floor price to support debt services. Secondly, the equity investment that comes alongside the offtake agreement. Thirdly, The government support required that counterweight for the capital costs that are higher in Canada than in China, so it would ensure competitiveness of Nouveau Monde in the long term. Finally, with all the right ingredients, we will determine the optimal debt-to-equity ratio while maximizing the lower-cost senior financial instrument. This concludes the management presentation. So with that, I'll turn it to Julie, our Vice President, Communication and ESG Strategy, to begin the Q&A session.
Merci, Charles. Bonjour. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Je vais commencer en français, donc simplement rappeler aux participants qu'on prendra les questions à la langue de votre choix. Si vous souhaitez poser la question en français, on prendra le temps d'y répondre. Puis s'il y a des éléments de la présentation qui ont été faits ce matin qui vous ont échappé, n'hésitez pas à communiquer avec nous. Marc Jasmin, le directeur des relations investisseurs, sera disponible cette semaine là, pour faire le suivi sur quelques éléments qui puissent être en suspens. Vous pouvez poser vos questions sur l'onglet message à la gauche de votre écran. So participants are welcome to ask the question in the language of their choice. You may do so by using the messaging button on the left side of your screen. We'll take the time to answer your questions this afternoon. And if there's anything left that we didn't get a chance to cover today, please feel free to reach out to Marc Jasmin, our Investor Relations Director. He'll be happy to follow up with you today or following this week. So I'll give everybody a few seconds to take time to pop into the segment of the platform to submit your questions. So we'll give participants a few extra seconds. But if not, I remind people that today's session will be available on our YouTube channel should you desire to watch the presentation again. And we will remain available for questions and engagement throughout the day and the summer. Okay, alors allons-y. Première question. It's going to be about the UATNAN mining project. We'll go in French. Alors, on aimerait savoir quel est l'échéancier au niveau du développement du projet minier UATNAN, potentiellement le début de la construction de ce côté.
C'est certain qu'on n'a pas mis d'échéancier clair encore dans nos communiqués de presse parce qu'on est quand même assez tôt dans le développement du projet. C'est difficile de mettre un échéancier précis. Notre but corporatif, c'est de débuter la construction du projet UATNAN quand on va avoir terminé la construction du projet MATAWINIE. C'est notre objectif. C'est dans cette optique-là qu'on développe les premières étapes, là, comme l'étude économique préliminaire. On est en train de rassembler un peu les critères importants de développement du projet au niveau technique. On est en train d'avancer sur ce front. Mais il ne faut pas s'attendre à ce que le projet UATNAN débute la construction avant au minimum 2026-2027, puis de manière réaliste probablement plus 2027-2028 et qu'ils soient en production en 2030. C'est vraiment un objectif avant 2030, mais pas réellement réaliste de penser que ça va être en production avant 2030, 2028-2030, dans ces 2 années-là. Donc, le but, c'est de faire une étude de faisabilité et de démarrer une étude de faisabilité dans les prochains 12 mois, de la débuter, puis de comprendre après l'étude de faisabilité exactement l'échéancier qu'on va avoir sur ce projet-là et aussi les étapes pour obtenir tous les autorisations et permis. Fait que ça va être en lien réellement avec la demande du marché, mais aussi avec notre habilité technique à mettre le projet prêt à construire, comme le projet MATAWINIE, il est rendu. Le projet MATAWINIE est très avancé, il est prêt à construire. Il faut amener le projet UATNAN à ce niveau-là avant de donner un échéancier de production précis.
Merci. Now going on to phase 2. So could you provide us with an overview in terms of timeline to get to FID and an update on the construction of the power line for the MATAWINIE mine?
Yeah, so the phase 2 MATAWINIE mine and Bécancour plant, to get to FID, what we need to achieve, as Charles pointed out, we need first of all to have definitive offtake agreement. That's the next big milestone. It's on the critical path. Based on the definitive agreement or agreements, depending if we have 1 to 3 customers to fulfill the needs of the lenders in terms of bankability and volume needed to finance the project. Based on that, we'll require at least 3 months to be to FID. So next thing is offtake agreement. We're very advanced negotiating those. We don't want to provide a precise date, obviously, because we're not the only ones signing on those contracts. It's difficult to predict when market conditions and when our customer will decide it's the right time to sign those contracts. But post offtake agreement, we will need about 3 months to do a lot of different deliverables for FID, including freezing the project scope, the value-added project scopes, and also the getting all the lenders and all the equity investors aligned into FID based on the offtakes that we will have signed. So we have an aggressive timeline before year end and most likely Q1 to proceed with FID. And post that, it's a 28 to 30 months construction time before being in production. And the next question was on the power line. So the power line currently with Hydro-Québec is not on the critical path. So it's within the 28 months that we're talking about. So we are finalizing the path where the power line will be built. We have 14 kilometers of power line to build between the Provo substation in Saint-Zénon and our MATAWINIE mine. Hydro-Québec is progressing with that, and we don't see it currently as being on the critical path of the 28 to 30 months I was talking about.
Super. So follow-up question on the financing, this one perhaps more for Charles-Olivier. So a shareholder was interested in understanding the debt to equity ratio that we are considering for the big financing and the approximate discount rate on debt, considering the economic conditions that you described earlier.
Thanks, Julie. So on the debt to equity ratio, what we're working towards is anywhere between 50 upwards to 70-30 of debt to equity ratio. Obviously, we need to balance both components in an optimal fashion. And as was pointed out, cost of capital has been rising in recent months. Nevertheless, we have the chance of being in the critical minerals. And, we see debt instrument that is available to NMG that, have a lower cost of capital compared to other sectors. So we are tackling those, all those governmental measures to ensure that we can provide, good source of debt to the project. So that's one of the main objectives that we've been working towards. And as I said, with regards also to the tax measure that were recently announced in the first half of 2023, we expect them to provide, several $100 million of support on the project. So that would, also obviously reduce the dilution and enable NMG to have that good level of support from government and makes it competitive, with China and for customer as well.
a question about potential partnerships. Is NMG considering partnering with larger mining companies to execute our vision?
That's a question again that you need to have two parties to discuss to do that. But conceptually, NMG is by a margin the most advanced Western world company to service this market. We don't see any large major corporation in mining currently being experts in graphite. So although they do have the balance sheet, obviously, and we are developing a business case today with both MATAWINIE and UATNAN and Bécancour plant to eventually have the kind of EBITDA and large revenue generating profile that could be attractive to such large mining corporation in the future. Currently, we don't see them as having the expertise needed to be, successful short term to service the Panasonic of this world and tier one cell makers. So what we are doing is really de-risking the project, making sure we build a project financing and equity structure with a tier one partner like Mitsui, like Palingers, like of Investissement Québec and Panasonic. We're building the right structure to de-risk this phase two. And we'll see in the future if the mining corporation want to play a role in this structure, but this is a question for them more than for us at this point.
And we'll follow up on the discussion on offtake. So a question here about the process, the duration of that engagement towards getting to a definitive offtake. If you could provide some comment in terms of why it is taking the time it is taking to get to a definitive agreement, considering the significant interest in the market that you referred to earlier. A bit more perspective on the requirements that go into signing a definitive offtake would be appreciated.
Yes. Maybe a few words on that. On the cathode side, there's a lot more options with major companies for cell makers. I don't need to name all the project, but you see POSCO, EcoPro, Umicore in Kingston, and you have a few others that can be BASF that can provide options for large cell maker. On the anode side, it's strictly a Chinese story today and a startup company like us. So we don't only have to build the supply chain, build the process itself, but we also need to build the structure, the capital market structure, the project financing structure, and the agreements and pricing mechanism that makes sense for everyone. So there's a lot of little details in there. It's important for our equity holders to capture future market upside. So market upside means we need to establish a way to calculate the future market price with China being 100% of the market, but with all the premiums that we referred to. So we need to build a formula that satisfies everyone, the lenders in terms of bankability, the equity holders in terms of future return, and also the customers in terms of transparency of the market price itself, and to justify their investment and their commitment. So what we are asking and what we are contemplating, it's more than 5 years offtake agreement, and also significant equity contribution in our project financing. So this is quite important for all stakeholders to see skin in the game from the customers, and it's an essential part of the establishment of a successful supply chain moving forward on the anode side.
Can I maybe, Eric, just add 1 or 2 points to that as well? I have been active in many of the discussions also in other commodities. And what we are really doing here now with Nouveau Monde is making sure that we find the right partner, but a partner for potentially decades to come. And the way we do that is we work with them. They come to site. They're participating in our technical discussion. So it is not about being fast, but it's about being right. And it's about developing a thing that can stand the test of time and will really be the predominant supply of anode material in North America. And as the chairman, I would rather have a few more months spent on that in getting it absolutely right. And I'm very encouraged with all the progress that Eric is making.
Thank you both. Now, could you comment perhaps on the share price, its performance over the past few weeks and months, and any potential worries about being delisted from New York Stock Exchange?
Well, I can start with the last part. No, we're far of being in a situation of not being compliant for a New York Stock Exchange, so it's not something that we're afraid of. The first part of the question was about share price, obviously, and no one on this line is happy about share price when it's underperforming like that. It's no different to the rest of the EV market, especially outside of lithium, I would say. So if you look at all EV related stocks, and there's few index to follow that, like BAT, B-A-T-T, ETFs, it's underperforming as well. Currently, graphite pricing in China is challenging. It's everybody expect a major lithium moment in the future, but it did not materialize yet. So all those factors, and if you look only graphite-related other stocks also, it's difficult, not only for an MJ, but for everyone. So, but we are looking forward from this base point for the next 12 months. So I think the fundamentals never been so strong, especially at NMG, where our projects are very advanced, and also on the fact that we have a very, we have an interesting cash balance. So we have, I think the last financials, we had the 75 million Canadian in the bank. So we're comfortable moving forward in the next 12 months. So we are, I would say, fully financed all the way to FID. So that's an advantageous situation compared to our peers. So although share price is low, we're not in the need to use our share price to finance the project short term other than FID. So there's a lot of catalysts coming before FID that we expect will improve share price and show the market that we have great partners and it's well structured. And as our chairman mentioned, that we have structured something right for long term that will be value creative for all shareholders moving forward.
Great. So I think I've got one question that came through. It's going to be our last question today. I think we've covered before kind of the overview in terms of financing. So perhaps one last question for Charles in terms of equity participation through an offtake, or if you want to comment on that, and I think that will wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. So obviously that's something that we see in project finance in recent months and years, that OEM are willing to participate in project finance. And as Arnie mentioned, this is about creating a partnership for the next few years, and obviously also aligning with the interests of shareholders. So this is something that's really important for Nouveau Monde, and that we've been working actively towards. So those are all key conditions in order to support the project finance, have a bankable offtake, and align, shareholder with the customer as well. So this is, as we point out, taking perhaps a bit more time, but it's important that we take the right decision at this stage of the company, as we will need to live with it, for a few years at least, up to the end of the decade. So yeah, I think that's pretty much wrapped it up.
Wonderful. Thank you, Charles, and thank you, everybody. So I remind everybody that you can subscribe to our social media platforms should you want to watch this video afterwards, or just keep in touch with us through announcements and newsletters. Feel free to reach out to Marc as well for additional comments or questions. Je remercie tous les participants et participantes à la session aujourd'hui. Vous pouvez nous suivre sur les réseaux sociaux pour avoir accès aux vidéos, suivre nos annonces, les résultats finaux du vote d'aujourd'hui. Et puis, on vous souhaite un bon été à tous. Marc Jasmin demeure disponible si vous avez des questions suite à la séance.
Thank you very much, everyone. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you.